For centuries, European nobles engaged in strategic inbreeding, often a result of political policies or traditions aimed at securing alliances and maintaining power. This practice, exemplified by King Charles and Camilla's alleged second-cousin connection through King Edward VII, was deeply rooted in maintaining control over titles and bloodlines. Arranged marriages among nobility, enforced by legal requirements or sheer scarcity of eligible individuals, frequently led to unions between close relatives. As we explore the intricate web of royal relationships, it begs the question, just how inbred is King Charles III? King Charles III, while mildly inbred, pales in comparison to his infamous predecessor, King Charles II, who suffered severe physical and mental disabilities due to extensive inbreeding within the Habsburg lineage. Although inbreeding was common practice in those days, the Habsburg clan were champions on consanguinity. Worried about losing their power, first cousins married first cousins and uncles married nieces to keep it in the family. It was so extensive that of all the marriages during the reign of the Spanish Habsburgs, between 1516 and 1700, only 2 were not incestuous. Charles II was the eldest surviving child of Charles I and Henrietta Maria of France, his niece, whom he married at the tender age of 15. A product of 16 generations of inbreeding, Charles was so severely deformed and intellectually stunted that he was deemed unfit to rule. This extreme level of inbreeding led to his inability to produce offspring and his early death, epitomizing the dangers of maintaining power within a closed royal circle. So when we ask, just how inbred is King Charles III? It is evident that while he may have some familial connections, he stands far removed from the dire consequences suffered by his predecessor. There seems to be a perception that even modern-day royals are so inbred that they contain massive amounts of genetic defects. Certainly, this occurred in the past, but nowadays, royal families are generally trying to avoid too much consanguinity. However, in examining the ancestry of the current monarch of the United Kingdom, King Charles III, there is indeed some inbreeding. His late parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, were both third and second cousins once removed. Queen Elizabeth's great-grandfather, Edward VII, was a brother to Princess Alice, who was Prince Philip's great-grandmother. This makes them third cousins. Additionally, Prince Philip's grandfather, King George I of Greece, was a brother to Princess Alexandra of Denmark, who was the wife of Edward VII and therefore Elizabeth's great-grandmother. This makes Elizabeth and Philip second cousins once removed as well. What this means is, instead of having 32 great-great-great-grandparents, Charles has only got 30. And instead of having 62 ancestors going back 5 generations, that is, 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and 32 great-great-great-grandparents, he only has 58. And things only get worse from then on, going further backwards. Having had the same great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, and Prince Philip were third cousins. Queen Victoria was Elizabeth's great-great-grandmother through her paternal family, since King George VI and Elizabeth's father was Queen Victoria's great-grandson. Prince Philip was related to Queen Victoria as great-great-grandson through his maternal side of the family. However, not all of Charles' ancestors were royalty. For instance, there were many commoners on the maternal side of Elizabeth Bowes Lyon, better known as the Queen Mother, as well as Prince Philip's side. Thus, King Charles is only mildly inbred compared to what used to happen. Camilla hails from a typical aristocratic family. Interestingly, her great-great-grandfather, Thomas Cubit, was a master builder of his time, with his most impressive work being the Buckingham Palace. He built the east front of the palace, including the infamous balcony where Camilla now stands to greet crowds on important occasions. But did you know that she has royal blood herself? Her royal ancestry is distant, but there's a definite linkage worth mentioning. Through their shared ancestor, King Edward VII, Camilla and Charles are supposedly second cousins, once removed. Camilla was born Camilla Rosemary Shand on July 17, 1947, to Mother Rosalind Cubit and Father Bruce Shand, and draws her royal connections from her mother's side. But it appears she isn't the first of her ancestors to cause a stir with their personal life. Alice Frederica Edmonstone, Camilla's great-grandmother, was the youngest child of the 4th Baronet, Sir William Edmonstone. In her adulthood, Alice Frederica was the long-standing mistress of King Edward VII, despite marrying George Keppel, Camilla's great-grandfather. She had met Edward before he was married, when he was the Prince of Wales, and their affair continued until his death. There is speculation around the parentage of Alice's youngest daughter Sonia, who was born in 1900 after the beginning of the royal affair. Sonia is Camilla's grandmother, making Edward VII her great-grandfather. Charles, on the other hand, is a direct descendant of King Edward VII. He was the father of his grandfather, King George VI, Queen Elizabeth II's father, making him and Camilla second cousins. So yes, King Charles did marry his cousin.